I think that was the next one I'm going to spend on that long-winded question before was then how do you then start looking at rugby like you said this has always been my respite from the rest of the world. My when school was your job, rugby was my respite. Rugby was my get all my anger out, do this, which it can still be. But then how do you then look at it and go, this is now where my source of income comes. This is now where I make my livelihood. For me, in order to do the things I want to do, like you said, we need to win, we need to play well, and I need to perform to the best of my capability. When does that mind? Because I feel that's probably not a thing that somebody can tell you externally. That must have to be a real internal process to realize. Did that come into you around that time, or is this something you learned later on? Or
Later on, it's weird because it's hard to figure out when you're in, call it a rugby bubble. You're
yeah,
surrounded by players and everything is a certain level.
hmm
Like you start to see yourself in a certain way, and if you're not playing, you're like, well, I'm not really doing well as a human being here, just
yeah,
because you're not playing. But then you meet up with mates from school, and they're in their office jobs, they're doing whatever else, and then you get perspective, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm actually like I am a rugby player, and I am part of this small bunch of people, this small group that get to do this. So it kind of you zoom out a bit, and you
yeah,
see that you're actually still in the position you wanted to be and that you've worked for. It's just that things might not be going well at that moment. And as school did to rugby when you were at school, it gave you balance because it kind of let you breathe. When rugby's not gone well for me or I've been stressed, I've realised that I put everything into rugby, which
hmm
sounds like a good thing, but it's not, because if you try too hard and give everything in that one area, it can put everything off balance, and you start to get stressed, and you start to get well, you start to get real down about yourself. So I think it's really important to kind of keep an eye on who you are. Like I'm not like Guy the rugby player. I'm Guy the human being,
hmm
and like got a family. I've got friends. Like I love doing other things other than rugby. Like I love drawing and like writing children's books and like odd
yeah,
things. Like so even at the moment, let's say I've like neglected some stuff that I love to do outside of rugby, and
hmm
it can really put you off balance. So I think it's a case of remembering who you are and what you love to do, and not to let those things go. So like all like the weird, like quirky things or whatever else that you like to do that you're like, oh, bit weird. Never don't let those things go. Like always think ahead, do the interesting things and keep learning. And then it will allow you to enjoy rugby. As school drags you away from rugby, it would allow you to like come into it instead
hmm
of stressing about it at home the whole time and then getting caught in a cycle.
Wow, I love everything answers to that, and you're preaching to the choir there. I know you and I have had the pleasure of knowing each other for a while now. We speak about it a few times about the weird, quirky things we still do. I know we both messaged each other a few times about how I think there was once we were both sat talking in the group chat, and then we were all just asking people what we were doing, and you're like, "Oh, I'm just doodling," and I sent the photo in of like, "Oh, I'm actually doing the same thing." So we both actually had adult coloring books because we just found them as such a good relief of just it's the most silly, impractical thing to do for an hour, but it's such a good reset of the mind to just have this completely tangent thing to what everybody does in their day to day life. Of just this is something I've held on to and I keep doing it.
Yeah, just remember like the folders back of books. I just doodle like,
Yeah,
but because you're not carrying a book around, you're like, oh, I can't do that anymore.
yeah.
Like I'm sat at my desk, like
Right. I think I've tidied mine away for the podcast to make it look nice, but mine's I've got a stack of drawers under that part of the desk, and there's at least two colouring books in there.
that's what I mean. Like there's just like stuff that I've just doodled and drawn just around within within reach, just in case.
Quite right. I love that. And then, so asking us that you're now at that stage. This we're kind of going. how this thing's going to work now. We've kind of done the mental journey, and we'll go back to the actual physical of where you were journey throughout. But now, as you get more aware and in tune with like your mental health, it sounds like you've always had quite an understanding for it, and you've always been. I know this the situation and the mindset I need to have for each part of the journey I'm doing. But we talk more about mental health, and then you're a huge ambassador for blokes. You're a huge ambassador for Give a Ruck, who I recently spoke to. I think they're incredible. I think everybody should go follow them. It sounds rugby based, but it's not rugby based. It's all about mental health. It's a tagline for us to care. So if you can go and follow Give a Ruck, go and follow blokes. The stuff they're doing is incredible, and you've got you've got incredible people like Guy on, previous guest Callum Circuit, Tom Lindsay. Everybody's been involved. They're all incredible people. Matt Jess, can't leave out Jess, the most positive man I've ever met in my life. He's frighteningly positive.
Yeah.
Um, mental health. You talk about there about how rugby became. I'm just putting placeholders in, but rugby became the school, as in that's the thing I now have to do instead of the thing I look forward to. We still look forward to playing rugby, but now you have to be the rugby. The rugby's the income. I have to be at training.
Yeah.
So, when did you like sort of decide to bring in these external things that I know common practice? A lot of rugby players play golf. Is the common conception because it's a peaceful thing. What would you advocate to young academy contract players, young aspiring school players at Wellington College, if you could go and speak to them now in terms of mental health and sort of preparation to help them on the next stage?
Uh, Everyone's different. That's
Mhm.
one thing I've learned
Yeah.
joining rugby teams is you have a variety of people. I think it would just be to keep like there's not everyone in the team were in the same friendship groups. Like everyone had
Mhm.
different interests. Just keep doing whatever that what it might be golf, it could be other sports. Like that's easy enough.
Mhm.
Just keep doing that. Stay in contact with people you hung out with anyway. Like start groups.
Mhm.
Um, like if you love to draw, try and like well keep drawing. Like don't stop just because you're not at school anymore or there's no reason to because
Yeah.
you're sat at your desk not wanting to do your homework. It's like a you actually have to start making time for that,
Yeah.
which is your I think it's just making time for it because it's really easy to just sit in front of the TV basically,
Mhm.
but doesn't that doesn't really help your mind. It's good to have an escape every now and then, but there's stuff in your head that just just needs to get out sometime. Whether that's drawing, writing, people love to do music, um,
Mhm.
reading, like just they're really simple things that we've done every day, but we kind of forget to do them. And after a while, when you've not done them, you don't even know what's wrong. You don't
Yeah.
even know why you feel like you do. And then someone's like,
Uh,
"Oh, have you done this lately?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, I haven't. Not in a few months, actually." Come to think of
yeah.
it, like a lot of time goes by, and you just can't figure out why you're off. Like two of um two of my best mates from school came over
Yeah.
last weekend, and like when I was in the academy, I used to see them once a week. We used to go bowling, like go bowling, go grab some food, like watch a film, like, and it would be me dipping out of the rugby world and coming back in. Like that would be my
I love it. Like a reset neutral reset button type thing.
yeah. But it
Mhm.
was normal, but I didn't realize how healthy it was in my life at the
Mhm.
time. But it's when I say moved to Coventry because I was in London, and up until that point,
Yeah.
that I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I was like, I was living alone.
Mhm.
I wasn't seeing them every week, and I was just getting more and more stressed. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And then I realized that small things that were in place when I was near family and friends were no longer there. And I didn't realize I needed to kind of make a conscious effort to call and plan because it gets harder when you're not near someone, kind of
Yeah.
bad way of out of sight, out of mind. You're like it's a oh, I actually need to plan to get them to come up because I'm a couple of hours away now. But the moment I did, like they came up, they came up in the week. They're like, "Oh, sweet, yeah, we'll come up." I'm like, "Oh, well, this could have been this could have been a lot
Yeah,
quicker if I had just said something." Like it's a,
I
they're
know.
like, "Oh, we didn't know." I'm like, "And now you do. Now you come and see me." I'm like, "Well, that was easily solved." And I was just in my head. I was like, "I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do." And then you see your
Mhm,
mates. I'm like, "It's all right. Like it's not that bad." Because they can, like, I find it's a lot easier to solve someone else's problems than your own
mhm.
because your emotions aren't clouding your judgment.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yes.
think that that sentence speaks volumes there. Just
Yeah,
like that resonates with me. There, it's so much easier to help other people than help yourself almost. But then, like you say, the actual act of helping yourself isn't that difficult. Of it sometimes just takes writing it out, calling your mate, and just saying, "Do you want to go and do some silly activity like bowling or just grabbing something to eat?" Just to have that interaction.
yeah, like that's bit in your head, the emotions in it. I'm like, oh, I don't know. There's a bit of fear, there's a bit of embarrassment, there's like a bit of everything mixed in.
Mhm.
And then you speak to someone and they just see it for what it is. And they're like, "Do you want to see them? Why don't you call them?" And I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, could do that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Pretty good option to be fair. I'm
What's
like,
amazing is, yeah, it's like some people say that, and you'll think it's like, I never thought of actually just phoning them. Like, it's amazing, like you say, how that gets clouded.
yeah, yeah. It's bizarre, but
Mhm.
communication key on the rugby
Yeah,
pitch, key everywhere else for relationships. Like when things are clear, then it just seems to work so much easier.
that is the truth. Not a true word has been spoken. Wow. So I don't know. This feels like it's not going to go, but that was beautiful. I've got a sore throat at the moment, so it sounds like I'm burst into tears. But I could be about to burst into tears because that was beautiful. God, guy, you've made me cry like two or three times when you talk about mental health because you speak so beautifully on it. Because you I don't want to say you get it because there's so much nuance to it, and everybody it's a constant thing. There's never a case of like job done, solved, see you later, how you doing.